Dear listeners, I welcome you to my channel. Leave your comments and impressions, I value your opinion. The clock on the wall ticks steadily as I sit in my favorite armchair, absorbed in a mystery novel. The cozy warmth of the living room, dimly lit by a solitary lamp, wraps around me like a blanket. The world outside is silent, save for the occasional rustle of leaves against the window. It's the perfect setting for a quiet night of reading, and I almost lose myself in the pages. Suddenly, the tranquility shatters. Glass explodes inward, and a cold breeze rushes in, making the hair on my arms stand up. I leap to my feet, heart pounding, and see a stone lying amid the shards of broken glass. Attached to it is a piece of paper, flopping ominously in the wind. I gingerly pick it up, hands trembling, and read the hastily scrawled message. Your wife is here. If you want her back, come to this address and bring $50,000 in cash with you. Don't you dare call the cops or anyone else. Otherwise, your wife Gwen will be in trouble. My heart races even faster. Gwen. I grab my phone, hands shaking, and dial her number. It rings and rings, but she doesn't pick up. My mind races as I try to stay calm. Gwen works the night shift at the hospital, and she's usually reachable. Panic begins to seep in, but I force it back. There has to be a logical explanation. I dial the hospital's main line and ask for her supervisor. He answers on the second ring. Hello. This is Dr. Roberts, he says, sounding tired. Dr. Roberts, this is Mark Thompson. I'm trying to reach my wife Gwen. She's on the night shift, but she's not picking up her phone. There's a pause on the other end. Mark, Gwen took the night off. She said she had something urgent to take care of. Is everything okay? A cold chill runs down my spine. Something is definitely wrong. Thank you, Dr. Roberts. I managed to say before hanging up. My mind races through the possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. I look at the note again, the address staring back at me like a dare. This isn't random. Someone knows Gwen and me well enough to plan this. But who and why? I decide I can't just sit here and wait. I need to act, and fast. I grab my jacket, car keys, and the emergency cash I keep in the safe. It's not $50,000, but it's a start. As I head out the door, I hesitate. Should I call the police? No, the note was clear, no cops. Gwen's life is at stake, and I can't risk it. The drive to the address is a blur of anxiety and dark, empty streets. My mind races with questions, but I push them aside, focusing on the road and the task ahead. I arrive at a rundown warehouse on the outskirts of town, the kind of place where bad things happen in movies. My stomach churns, but I force myself to stay calm. Gwen needs me. I park a few blocks away and approach the building on foot. The night is eerily silent, the only sound the crunch of gravel under my shoes. I reach the entrance, a heavy metal door slightly ajar. Taking a deep breath, I push it open and step inside. The interior is dimly lit, shadows dancing across the walls. I strain my ears for any sound, but the silence is oppressive. I move cautiously, every step deliberate. Suddenly, I hear a faint noise, like someone shifting in the darkness. My heart leaps into my throat. Who's there? I call out, my voice echoing in the vast space. There's no response, just the oppressive silence. I move deeper into the warehouse, the faint light from a single bulb swinging overhead casting eerie shadows. Then, out of the darkness, a figure steps forward. He's tall, with a rugged face and a cold, calculating look in his eyes. He holds a gun casually at his side, as if he's done this 100 times before. You must be Mark, he says, his voice a low growl. You're early. Where's Gwen? I demand, trying to keep my voice steady. What do you want? The man smirks. All in good time. First, the money. I swallow hard, my mouth dry. I don't have $50,000, I admit, but I have some cash. Let me see Gwen first. The man's eyes narrow. You're not in a position to negotiate, Mark, but since you're here early, I'll give you a chance. He gestures to a door on the far side of the room. Through there. Go see for yourself. My heart pounds as I walk towards the door, my mind racing with possibilities. What if this is a trap? What if Gwen isn't here? But I have no choice. I push the door open and step inside. The room is small, dimly lit by a single bulb. Gwen is there, tied to a chair, her eyes wide with fear. Relief floods through me at the sight of her, but it's short-lived. I rush to her side, checking for injuries. Mark, she whispers, tears streaming down her face. I knew you'd come. I start to untie her, but the man's voice stops me cold. Not so fast, Mark. We're not done here. I turn to see him standing in the doorway, gun raised. You think this is just about money? He sneers. This is personal. You took something from me, and now I'm taking something from you. My mind races, trying to make sense of his words. What are you talking about? I demand. He steps closer, eyes blazing with hatred. You really don't remember, do you? Well, you'll have plenty of time to think about it. That is, if you survive the night. Before I can react, he lunges at me. The next few moments are a blur of fists and pain. I fight back with everything I have. Desperation giving me strength. Gwen screams, but I can barely hear her over the sound of my own heartbeat. Somehow, I manage to land a solid punch, and the man staggers back, momentarily stunned. I grab Gwen's hand and pull her to her feet, adrenaline pumping through my veins. Run, I shout, and we bolt for the exit, the man's curses echoing behind us. We burst out into the night, the cool air a sharp contrast to the stifling heat of the warehouse. I don't stop running until we reach the car, my breath coming in ragged gasps. Gwen clings to me, sobbing. We need to call the police, I say, fumbling for my phone. No, Gwen gasps, shaking her head. We can't. He said he'd kill us if we did. I look into her terrified eyes and realize she's right. This isn't over. The man knows where we live, and he's not going to stop until he gets what he wants, whatever that is. For now, all I can do is get us somewhere safe and figure out what the hell is going on. But one thing is clear, this night has changed everything, and our nightmare is just beginning. We drive in silence, the city lights blurring past as we put distance between ourselves and the warehouse. Gwen's hands tremble in her lap, and I can't shake the image of her tied up and terrified. My mind races with questions, but I push them aside. First, we need to get somewhere safe. I pull into a motel on the outskirts of town, its neon sign flickering in the darkness. We check in under false names, and I pay in cash. The room is dingy and small, but it feels like a fortress compared to the nightmare we just escaped. I lock the door behind us and turn to Gwen, who collapses onto the bed, tears streaming down her face. Gwen, are you okay? I ask, kneeling beside her. She nods, but her eyes are distant, haunted. Mark, who was that man? Why did he say this is personal? I don't know, I admit, my voice shaking with frustration and fear, but we need to find out. He knew exactly where to find us, and he knew about the cash. This isn't random. Gwen takes a deep breath, trying to steady herself. There has to be a connection. Someone who knew we'd have that money, someone with a grudge. But who? A sudden knock on the door startles us both. I motion for Gwen to stay quiet and approach the door cautiously. Who is it? I call out, trying to keep my voice steady. It's Detective Harris, a woman's voice responds. I need to talk to you, Mark. My heart skips a beat. How did she find us so quickly? I glance at Gwen, who looks just as confused. I crack the door open and see a tall woman in a trench coat, her expression serious but not hostile. Can I come in? She asks, her eyes scanning the room behind me. I hesitate, then nod. Okay, but no funny business. We're in enough trouble as it is. She steps inside, closing the door softly behind her. I'm here to help, she says, holding up her badge. I've been following this case for a while. The man who took your wife is dangerous, and you're in over your heads. How did you find us? Gwen asks, her voice trembling. I've been tracking that man for months, Harris explains. When I saw you two at the warehouse, I knew you were in danger. I followed you here to make sure you were safe. I feel a mix of relief and suspicion. Why should we trust you? He said no cops. He's a criminal, Mark, Harris says, her eyes locking onto mine. He'll say anything to keep you isolated and scared, but you need help. You can't do this alone. Gwen looks at me, her eyes pleading. Mark, we need to trust someone. We can't keep running forever. I nod slowly, turning back to Harris. All right, detective. What do you know about this man? Harris sits down, pulling out a small notebook. His name is Victor Lennox. He's a professional criminal with a history of kidnappings and extortion. He targets people with something valuable, something they can't afford to lose. He's ruthless and won't hesitate to hurt anyone who gets in his way. Why us? I ask, my frustration boiling over. What did we do to deserve this? Harris flips through her notes. I don't have all the details yet, but I believe it has to do with your work, Mark. Something you did or something you have that Lennox wants. My work? I rack my brain, trying to think of anything that could be valuable enough to warrant this nightmare. I'm just an accountant, I say, shaking my head. I don't have anything worth $50,000. Maybe not directly, Harris says, but you handle a lot of sensitive information. Is there anything in your files, any client data that could be worth that much? I think back to my recent projects, clients, and accounts. Nothing stands out. I don't know, I admit. But I'll help you find out. Harris nods. Good. But first, we need to get you two somewhere safer. Lennox won't stop until he gets what he wants. Where do we go? Gwen asks, her voice barely above a whisper. I have a safe house, Harris says. It's secure, and we can plan our next move from there. We gather our things quickly, and Harris leads us out to her car. The ride to the safe house is tense, but Harris' calm demeanor helps ease our nerves. She explains more about Lennox and his operations, painting a picture of a man driven by greed and vengeance. We arrive at a small, nondescript house on the edge of town. Harris unlocks the door and ushers us inside. The interior is sparse but clean, with a few basic necessities and a couple of beds. This will do for now, Harris says, setting her bag down. I need to make some calls and gather more information. In the meantime, you two need to rest and stay put. Don't answer the door for anyone but me. Gwen and I nod, exhausted but relieved to have some semblance of safety. Harris steps outside to make her calls, and I turn to Gwen. We're going to get through this, I say, squeezing her hand. We'll figure out what Lennox wants and stop him. Gwen nods, but her eyes are still filled with fear. I just want this nightmare to end, Mark. We'll end it, I promise. Together. The hours pass slowly, each minute dragging by as we wait for Harris to return. When she finally does, she looks more determined than ever. I've got some leads, she says, closing the door behind her. But we need to act fast. Lennox isn't the type to give up easily. What do we do? I ask, feeling a renewed sense of urgency. We need to find out what he wants from you, Mark, Harris says. There's something in your life or your work that he thinks is worth this risk. We need to uncover it before he does. I nod, determined to get to the bottom of this. Let's get started. As we dive into my work files and personal history, the pieces of the puzzle start to come together. It's a race against time, but with Harris' help, I start to see a glimmer of hope. We're not alone in this fight, and together, we might just have a chance to stop Lennox and reclaim our lives. The true reason behind Lennox's vendetta remains elusive. The determination to uncover the truth and protect Gwen fuels my resolve. The stakes are high, and failure isn't an option. We're in this together, and we'll do whatever it takes to bring Lennox down and end this nightmare once and for all. The sun is barely peeking over the horizon when we dive into the search. Harris has set up her laptop on the small kitchen table, and Gwen and I sit across from her, surrounded by stacks of papers and files from my office. The safe house is eerily quiet, the kind of silence that amplifies every little noise and keeps our nerves on edge. We need to focus on your recent projects, Harris says, tapping away on her laptop. Anything that could connect you to Lennox. I nod, my mind racing through the past few months of work. I've handled a lot of accounts recently, but nothing that stands out as particularly valuable. Think harder, Harris presses. There has to be something. Gwen sifts through the papers, her eyes scanning the documents. What about the Reynolds account? They had a lot of confidential information. I shake my head. No, the Reynolds account is solid. All their data is secure, and there's nothing out of the ordinary. Harris looks up, her eyes sharp. Any new clients? Unusual transactions? I pause, thinking back. There was one new client, a startup tech company. They needed help with some financial projections and securing investor funding. What's the name? Harris asks, leaning forward. Orient Tech, I reply. But they didn't seem suspicious. Just a small company trying to get off the ground. Harris types the name into her laptop, her fingers moving quickly. Orient Tech. Let's see what we can find. The minutes drag by as we wait for the search results. Gwen shifts nervously in her seat, her eyes darting to the door every few seconds. I reach over and squeeze her hand, trying to reassure her. Got something, Harris says suddenly, breaking the tense silence. Orient Tech is connected to a shell company that Lennox uses to launder money. It looks like he's using them to funnel cash through legitimate businesses. My heart sinks. So he's using my services to cover his tracks. Harris nods. Exactly, and he probably thinks you're onto him, which is why he's targeting you. Gwen's eyes widen. So, if we expose this connection, we can stop him. That's the plan, Harris says. But we need proof. Solid evidence that links Lennox to Orient Tech and the shell company. How do we get that? I ask, feeling a mix of hope and anxiety. I have a contact in the FBI, Harris replies. She can help us get the evidence we need, but it's risky. Lennox has eyes everywhere, and if he gets wind of this, they'll come after us. We don't have a choice, Gwen says, her voice steady. We need to stop him. I nod in agreement. Let's do it. Harris makes the call, speaking in hushed tones. When she hangs up, she looks at us with a determined expression. My contact is meeting us in an hour. We need to move fast. We gather our things and head out, moving quickly but cautiously. The drive to the meeting point is tense, every shadow and passing car making my heart race. We arrive at a secluded park, where a woman in a dark suit is waiting by a bench. Agent Collins, Harris says, introducing us. This is Mark and Gwen Thompson. Nice to meet you, Collins says, her gaze sharp and assessing. Let's get down to business. What do you have? We explain the situation, laying out the connection between Lennox, Orient Tech, and the shell company. Collins listens intently, nodding as she takes notes. This is good, she says, but we need more. Bank records, transaction logs, anything that ties Lennox directly to the money laundering. I can get those, I say, taking of the files back at my office. But I'll need to go in and access the system. Too risky, Collins says, shaking her head. Lennox will be watching your office. Harris interjects. What if we create a diversion? Something to draw his attention away while Mark gets the files. Collins considers this, then nods. It could work, but we need to be careful. One wrong move and Lennox will know we're onto him. We formulate a plan, each of us with a specific role to play. Harris and Collins will create a diversion at a nearby location, drawing Lennox's attention and resources. Meanwhile, Gwen and I will head to my office to retrieve the necessary files. As we set the plan in motion, my heart pounds with a mix of fear and determination. This is our chance to stop Lennox and end this nightmare once and for all. We split up, and Gwen and I drive to my office, trying to stay calm and focused. The streets are quiet, the early morning light casting long shadows. We park a few blocks away and approach the building on foot, keeping a low profile. Inside, the office is eerily empty. I make my way to my desk, logging into the computer and accessing the secure files. Gwen stands guard, her eyes darting around nervously. Hurry, Mark, she whispers, her voice filled with urgency. I'm almost there, I reply, my fingers flying over the keyboard. I locate the files we need and download them onto a flash drive. Just as I finish, we hear a noise from the hallway. Footsteps. My heart races as I quickly shut down the computer and grab the flash drive. Go, go. I whisper, and we slip out of the office, moving quickly and quietly. We make our way to the stairwell, descending quickly. Just as we reach the exit, the door bursts open, and Lennox stands there, a cold smile on his face. Going somewhere, he sneers, blocking our path. I step in front of Gwen, my mind racing for a way out. Let us go, Lennox. You won't get away with this. He laughs, a chilling sound. Oh, I think I will. Hand over the drive, and maybe I'll let you walk out of here. Don't listen to him, Mark. Gwen says, her voice trembling but defiant. We have to stop him. I look into Lennox's eyes, seeing the cold calculation there. He won't let us go, not without a fight. I tighten my grip on the flash drive, my mind made up. Run, Gwen, I say, pushing her towards the door. But Mark. Go, I shout, and she bolts for the exit. Lennox lunges at me, but I'm ready. I dodge his attack and land a solid punch to his jaw. He staggers back, cursing. I take the opportunity to sprint after Gwen, the flash drive clutched tightly in my hand. We burst out into the street, running as fast as we can. Behind us, I hear Lennox shouting orders, but we don't look back. We need to get to Harris and Collins to safety. We round a corner and see Harris' car parked ahead. She spots us and waves us over, her expression urgent. "Get in," she shouts, and we dive into the car. Collins is already in the driver's seat, and she floors the gas pedal, the car screeching away from the curb. I look back and see Lennox and his men chasing after us, but they're quickly left behind. We drive for what feels like hours, the tension in the car palpable. Finally, Collins pulls into a secure underground garage, and we all breathe a sigh of relief. "Did you get it?" Harris asks, turning to me. I hold up the flash drive, my hand still shaking. "We got it." Collins smiles, a rare expression of warmth. "Good job." This should be enough to take Lennox down. Gwen and I collapse into each other's arms, the weight of the past few days crashing down on us. It's not over yet, but for the first time, I feel a glimmer of hope. With the evidence we've gathered, we have a fighting chance to stop Lennox and reclaim our lives. And we'll do it together, no matter what it takes. The evidence we have is solid, but it's only the beginning. Collins and Harris work through the night, analyzing the files and piecing together the intricate web of Lennox operations. Gwen and I try to get some rest, but sleep is elusive. The weight of what we've uncovered, and the danger still looming over us keep our minds racing. By morning, Collins has a plan. "We need to draw Lennox out into the open and catch him red-handed," she explains, spreading a map across the table. "The flash drive contains enough evidence to tie him to multiple crimes, but we need a confession to seal the deal." "How do we get him to confess?" Gwen asks, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "We set a trap," Harris says, a determined look on her face. "We'll use the information we have to lure him into a meeting. Mark, you'll be the bait." I nod, my stomach twisting with anxiety. "What do I need to do?" "We'll arrange a fake exchange," Collins explains. "You'll meet Lennox, pretend to hand over the evidence, and we'll record the whole thing. Once we have his confession, we move in and arrest him. It's a risky plan, but it's our best shot. We spend the next few hours preparing, rehearsing every detail. Finally, it's time to put the plan into action." The meeting is set for a secluded warehouse, similar to the one where we first encountered Lennox. I arrive early, my heart pounding in my chest. Gwen and Harris are positioned nearby, ready to move in at a moment's notice. Collins is monitoring the situation from a surveillance van, her calm voice guiding me through an earpiece. "Stay calm, Mark," she says. "He'll be here any minute." Sure enough, a black SUV pulls up, and Lennox steps out, flanked by two of his men. He approaches me with a confident swagger, his eyes cold and calculating. "Nice to see you again, Mark," he says, a cruel smile on his lips. "I assume you have what I want?" I nod, holding up a small bag. "It's all here. The evidence, just like you asked." Lennox's eyes narrow. "Good, hand it over, and maybe we can end this peacefully." I swallow hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "First, I want to know why you're doing this." "Why me? Why Gwen?" Lennox laughs, a harsh sound that echoes in the empty warehouse. "You really don't remember, do you? It's pathetic. You destroyed my life, Mark. You and your precious Gwen." I stare at him, confusion mingling with fear. "What are you talking about?" "You testified against me," Lennox sneers. "Years ago in court. Your testimony put me behind bars. I lost everything because of you." The memory comes rushing back. A trial, my testimony as an expert witness in a financial fraud case. Lennox's face twisted with rage as he was led away in handcuffs. "That was years ago," I say, my voice barely a whisper. "You were guilty." Lennox's eyes blaze with hatred. "And now you're going to pay for it." Before I can react, Lennox pulls a gun from his coat. I freeze, the world narrowing to the cold barrel pointed at my chest. "Hand over the evidence," he growls. "Now." "Mark, stall him," Collins' voice crackles in my ear. "We need more time." I swallow hard, trying to think of anything that could buy us a few more seconds. "Lennox, think about this," I say, my voice shaking. "You can still walk away. There's no need for more violence." "Shut up," he snaps, his finger tightening on the trigger. "Give me the bag, or I'll kill you right here." Suddenly, a noise distracts Lennox. Gwen steps out from behind a crate, her face pale but determined. "Leave him alone, Lennox," she says, her voice steady. "This ends now." Lennox's eyes widen with surprise, then fury. You think you can stop me, little girl? Gwen holds up her phone, the screen displaying a live video feed. You're being recorded, Lennox. Every word you say is being streamed to the police. For a moment, Lennox hesitates, his eyes flicking between me and Gwen. Then with a snarl, he lunges at Gwen, knocking the phone from her hand. I move to intercept him, but one of his men grabs me, holding me back. Gwen struggles, but Lennox is too strong. He wrestles her to the ground, the gun pressing against her temple. This is your last chance, Mark, he says, his voice deadly calm. Hand over the evidence, or she dies. Mark, don't do it. Gwen cries, her eyes filled with tears. Don't give him what he wants. I'm torn, my mind racing. If I give him the bag, he'll still kill us. But if I don't, he'll kill Gwen right here. I glance at Harris, who's hidden in the shadows, ready to pounce. She gives me a subtle nod, signaling that she's ready. I take a deep breath, steeling myself. All right, Lennox, I say, holding up the bag. You win. Here's the evidence. Lennox smirks, loosening his grip on Gwen just enough to reach for the bag. It's the opening we've been waiting for. Harris leads from her hiding spot, tackling Lennox to the ground. The gun goes off, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. Gwen screams, and I rush to her side, my heart pounding. Are you okay? She nods, tears streaming down her face. I'm fine. Just get the gun. Harris and Lennox struggle, but she's a trained officer, and within moments, she has him subdued, the gun kicked safely away. Lennox's men, seeing their leader captured, flee into the shadows, disappearing as quickly as they came. Good job, Mark. Collins' voice crackles in my ear. We've got everything we need. Harris pulls Lennox to his feet, slapping a pair of handcuffs on him. It's over, Lennox. You're done. Lennox glares at us, his eyes filled with hatred. This isn't over, he snarls. I'll find you. I'll. Save it for the judge, Harris interrupts, leading him away. Collins emerges from the van, a smile of relief on her face. You did great, she says, patting me on the shoulder. We'll take it from here. As the adrenaline fades, I turn to Gwen, pulling her into my arms. It's over, I whisper, holding her close. We're safe. She nods, her body trembling with the aftershocks of fear and relief. Thank you, Mark. I couldn't have done this without you. We did it together, I say, kissing her forehead. And we'll get through this together. The police arrive shortly after, securing the area and taking statements. Collins and Harris handle the details, ensuring that Lennox is taken into custody and that the evidence is secure. By the time they're finished, the sun is setting, casting a warm glow over the city. As we leave the warehouse, hand in hand, I feel a sense of peace wash over me. We've faced our worst fears and come out the other side stronger. The road ahead won't be easy, but we have each other, and that's all that matters. Let's go home, I say, squeezing Gwen's hand. It's over. She smiles, a genuine smile that lights up her face. Yes, let's go home. As we drive away, the city lights twinkling in the distance, I can't help but feel grateful. For the support of Harris and Collins, for the strength Gwen showed, and for the chance to start anew. The nightmare is over, and now we can finally begin to heal. But as we turn the corner, heading towards a future free from fear, I catch a glimpse of a shadowy figure watching us from the sidewalk. My heart skips a beat, a chill running down my spine. Is it over? Or is this just the beginning of a new chapter in our lives, one where we must always look over our shoulders? I push the thought aside, focusing on the road ahead. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. And with Gwen by my side, I know we can overcome anything.